Secretary Yellen, and I ask for your forgiveness. We're now 8 minutes past the time. In order to have partisan balance, Ms. Tlaib is here, and I think it would be appropriate if we can allow her to ask 5 minutes.
I'm certainly willing.
We did start a few minutes late, so thank you for that, Secretary Yellen. We'll go to Ms. Tlaib for the final set of questions for today, then we will adjourn immediately after.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. As you know, Secretary, non-bank financial companies like AIG, Lehman Brothers played a large role in the 2008 financial crisis. And that crisis disseminated the U.S. economy, causing millions of our families to lose their jobs, their homes, or both. And I know in my district, including Wayne County and broader southeastern Michigan, I mean, we saw employment fall 51% for low and moderate income households. The median home value for low and moderate homes plummeted like 53%. Countless families, as you know, lost their homes to foreclosure. We had the worst tax foreclosure crisis in Wayne County. When the pandemic hit, another financial crisis emerged seemingly overnight, and again, liquidity pressures on vulnerable and over-leveraged shadow banks contributed to the market volatility. The risk posed by such companies have not been addressed. Today, non-bank financial intermediaries, I think they call them, broadly defined, are responsible for 60% of credit provided to the U.S. economy. And so, Secretary Yellen, can you discuss the size of the so-called shadow banking sector and its interconnections with the traditional banking sector?
Well, the shadow banking sector is very large, and we are very focused on potential risks. I agree with your assessment that much of the damage, not all of it, but much of it during the financial crisis arose from this so-called shadow banking system. And in part, FSOC was created in order to try to address those risks. So it is very high on our agenda. We have a variety of tools to do so, and we've identified a number of areas that give us concern. Some of those were the areas, as you mentioned, in March of 2020, where we saw problems. And there were open-end bond funds.
So, Secretary, but given the size of non-banks, their interconnectedness, the incentives they face, I greatly appreciate your leadership in establishing FSOC's new guidance on the designation of non-banks as systematically important. I completely agree. The question now turns to implementation, which implementation matters. So, Secretary, so 0 non-banks are currently designated as systematically important. Do you believe that no non-bank financial institution is systematically important?
So very often, the financial stability risks are not created by an institution, but rather by market-based practices within a market. For example, money market funds have been a problem both recently and in the crisis. And to deal with those risks, it's not appropriate to just choose 1 or 2 large money market firms, money market funds to designate. I don't think designation is the right tool. I think an approach that regulates the practices in the industry is appropriate. So the so-called activity-based approach, that is what the SEC has been pursuing in that space. Sometimes it is appropriate to designate a firm when it creates risks, but in other situations,
I know, it's just, what I hear is the different regulatory environments that we're creating. I mean, what does it mean? What is regulatory, was it arbitrage? What does that mean?
Regulatory arbitrage means that
that
when one sector is regulated, that a kind of activity that becomes more expensive to conduct through that sector moves to a less regulated part of the economy. But this isn't always about individual firms. It's often about a group of firms or an industry.
Or maybe a culture.
It might be a culture, but often it's many firms and not just 1 or 2 firms that are responsible for the problems.
And I just want UFSAC, of course, it was important for you, and thank you for your leadership on that, but it has to fulfill its total responsibilities when it talks about protecting our residents, especially our low-income and underserved communities from the systematic risk, as you know, and financial instability that result from the failure of the mega banks and financial. So describe, I mean, what specific actions, maybe you talked to some of my colleagues about this already, has FSOC really taken, or plans to take in full responsibility in protecting those families? Again, I'm looking at these and trying to learn about these processes in the culture as I create it, I call it.
Gentlelady's time's expired, and if the Secretary could answer for the record in writing, that would be sufficient.
Okay, I will answer for that.
Yeah, I want to learn more. Thank you.